from D-Lab Electronics. Got a really cool project today on the bench. It's a 1965 Fender Blackface Super Reverb in need of D-Lab's assistance. It was actually sent up to me from a guy in Columbus, Ohio, and his stage name is OK Pixie, and he's like 15 years old. He started playing early on, like at 9 years old, and he already has an affection for these vintage tube amps. So he sent me a little storyline here. I'm just going to read it because it's too much for me to try to do ad lib. Okay, so here it is. It says, I'm located in Columbus, Ohio. My Super turned on and just had a hum that wouldn't go away. When we turned up the guitar to 10, it stays at the same, or when the guitar is at 0, it stays the same. So obviously the hum level is there. It's probably filter caps, okay? And then he says, I was playing on volume 6 and the amp for about 30 minutes and the chassis got very hot. And then he said I tried to turn it off. I'm pretty sure I smelled something burning, and that's what made me want to turn it off. Good move. Anyway, it's a good thing he caught that because it could have done further damage to the amp. Alright. It sounds fantastic, but it has problems. Laugh out loud. It's definitely in need of a recap, I'm sure of it. My guitar teacher has a cheap tube tester and says every tube is good, but you never know. Yeah, he's on it. I wanted to get it recapped because I've seen your videos and we both know that those caps in old amps need to be replaced. One other thing is the speed and intensity don't work, so it's probably that little sensor, the LDR, in the tremolo circuit. Okay. He says, I'm 15. I've saved up a ton of money to buy this amp, and I knew it had problems, but I didn't know it was like this. Surprise, surprise, right? I'd be happy to ship it up with the tubes taken out and in packaged separately, which he did. He did a great packing job. I was shocked. Basically, what I want is new caps, the whole amp gone through, and then when you can tell me what else is wrong with it, we can go from there. I've heard that some of the tube sockets can actually go bad over time. I'll inspect all that here in a few minutes. We're going to give this guy an update, okay? He has some other things that he wants to do later on, such as the addition of a master volume, and he wants that tremolo bypass, which increases gain on the amp, but we're not going to do that in part 1. So in this video, we're going to give it an initial inspection. We're going to find out why it was running hot. I'm going to power it up slowly on a variac, make sure everything's cool, put the tubes in, and see what we get out of it. And then in part 2, we'll put the final touches on it and make it perfect for OK Pixie. Here we go. So let's start with the top side of the amp. Original power transformer, choke, and output transformer. That's good. I noticed immediately after popping off the cover for the filter caps that they have been replaced. And inside, somebody actually dated when they did it. So 2012. So the amp has had some past maintenance. The tube sockets at this point appear to be good. I don't see any bent pins. Over here, of course, you can see we had some hot potatoes in the past. Those output tubes have been running hot for a long time there. Okay. Looks like somebody was attempting to clean up this area. Alright, let's take a look underneath. Okay, bottom side inspection. Everything looks pretty good, fairly original. Back cap's not. Okay, the old crusty electrolytics are still there, but the first thing that caught my eye was right here. See this cap? That's your negative bias cap. You see over here, the lead, it's disconnected. Okay, it looks like maybe at one time it was tack soldered to this original lead. Well, it didn't hold up, so we lost negative bias, causing the output tubes to go warp drive. You can see the transformer suffer a little bit, but in a minute we'll find out, because I'm going to put it on a variac. We're going to check that power supply, make sure the transformer wasn't damaged. Everything else in here looks pretty much original. It does look like the 470 ohm resistors on the output tubes have been replaced. Alright, let's get it on variac and see if the power transformer survived. Alright, here we go. Let's just see if the power transformer has life in it. I'm not going to run this amp at full voltage. All the tubes are still removed. I'm monitoring the high voltage right on the rectifier tube socket. Got a variac over here. Going to bring him up. Yep, we got some high voltage, and the dial lamp illuminates, so we got 6 volts AC. I'll verify that the 5 volt AC is there. Beauty of the variac, guys. If you don't have one of these in your shop, you need to get one. Okay, I'm going to bring it up just to make sure our 5 volts is alive. Yep, there he is. Remember, I'm only running about half voltage. So that's a good sign. Alright, good deal. Now let's fix the negative bias and test that. So to verify the negative bias is still alive, I simply resoldered this cap to the eyelet board. Now we're going to power it up and put a meter on one of the grids of the output tubes and look for negative voltage. I'm connected to the grid of one of the output tubes. Same deal. We're just going to come in with my variac and see if we have any negative voltage. And we do. Good deal. Now let's reinstall the rectifier tube and see if we have good high voltage. I'm sure that the filter caps topside are fine. Rectifier tube is reinstalled. I've got a 25K dummy load resistor on the high voltage. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the AC with my variac. Now we're looking for high voltage DC. Remember, none of the other tubes are installed, so we're using that resistor to absorb the high voltage and discharge it when I'm done. Okay, so bring it up. Hopefully the filaments start warming up on that 5AR4 tube, and we start seeing some high voltage. Here it comes. So I'm applying about 70 volts. I do not plan to bring it up all the way. I just want to see what we're seeing, that DC. I'm going to take it back down, and my resistor is going to discharge it. So good deal. Everything's there. Power transformer is still working. Let's pop in some tubes and see if we get any sound out of it. So I installed his original tubes. I did check the output tubes, and they got plenty of life in them. So let's see how it acts at this point. He did complain about noise levels. Let's see what we have and we'll go from there. Well, here we go, guys. Power up with tubes installed. I'm monitoring my negative bias on one of the output tubes. We're just going to have all the volumes down. We're on, and standby is on also. Monitor the current. There's my negative bias. That's good. I'm going to reel that bias back because I don't want these tubes to flame out. Okay. So we're going to run those tubes nice and cold. I have a speaker hooked up, so we'll be able to hear when she starts producing something. Okay. There is 80 volts applied. Lights on. Current's looking good. Alright, so there's about 95 volts. Negative voltage is like negative 50, right? Whoa, guess what? Scratchy, but it's alive. Now, he said he had some noise, so I suspect the little wiper shorting arms on the input jacks. And if those are bad, that would have excited it right there. So there is white noise. Tubes aren't torching. That's good. Yep, controls are a little scratchy, but we'll take care of that. I'm not testing the reverb or the tremolo at this time. Alright, that's a good deal. Let's go ahead and hook up an audio source and see if it produces a tone, which I'm sure it will. I put a little cleaner in these controls so they won't be as scratchy. I got all my tones set at about 5. Volumes are all the way down. Bringing the amp back up. Running it at about 100 volts input. Got an audio generator up there on channel 1 here of the vibrato input. And looky there. So that channel's working. It's a good thing. All right. Let's check the other channel. I should spend a little time and actually solder one of these plugs on here, huh? Oh yeah. It's alive. Good sign. All right. Okay, Pixie. Your amplifier passed the life test. It's alive. It produces sound. So it's not as bad off as what you thought it was. So in part 2, I'll go through and recap that eyelet board. We'll put in some shunts to measure the bias, fix your tremolo circuit, we'll give her a live test, and then later on I'll put in those additions like your master volume, and we'll check out that tremolo bypass idea that you'd like to do. So it's really coming along great. We'll see you in part 2.